So I've always been a fan of flip clocks, and I came across this one just a while ago, which was quite interesting. It's not like a traditional flip clock. It's also not like a traditional rolling wheel clock or cyclometer clock. It is kind of a combination of both. Now this clock is a General Electric or GE clock from perhaps the late 1970s, and it is model number 8137-7A. The sticker on the back is barely readable, but based on my research, that is the model number. So just a little bit about the functioning of this clock. It is plugged in, and you can kind of see this wheel kind of moving, kind of indicating kind of a seconds countdown here. But you have, of course, the minutes with tens of minutes, and you can see it's rotating right now. And it's not like a traditional flip clock, which has kind of a line in the middle, and as it moves, it kind of flips down one at a time. This is basically like more of a traditional roller wheel, which are typically kind of like big wheels that fit in, that have all the numbers, and as the wheel rotates, you see that. But this is a little different, and I'm going to get a little bit more into that in a minute. So of course you have the tens and then the hours here. Now this is actually an alarm clock, and you can set the alarm right here, and on back you can pull this out, and that will trigger the alarm, and you can close it just like that. And some of the different styles of this type of clock actually have a snooze button up on top. This one does not. Now on the bottom, where we saw kind of the label here, there's two dials, one right here and one right here. This one changes the time, and if I kind of rotate that, you can see it's rotating the time. And this one right here changes the actual alarm clock. So you can rotate the alarm clock accordingly. I think that one only goes in one direction. So if I wanted to set it, let's say it's 7:51 now. Here, let's go ahead and unplug this so you can actually hear the alarm. Now this only works on 12 hours, so if you set the alarm, it will go off. You know, it's 7 o'clock a.m. and 7 o'clock p.m. So that's something to be aware of. And so we'll bring it down to, and there you go. That's the hideous sound of the alarm, but basically you could just push this little lever back in and it's off, and when you pull it off, it's good to go again. So I'm sharing this clock again, mainly for how it tells the time. Now again, the traditional flip clocks, you know, kind of flip, and the wheel drum roller kind of just spins. But again, I told you this is kind of a combination, and let's go ahead and move this so you can see the single minutes are there. And you can see they're basically just little plates right here, and each plate has a different number like that. And then we go to 8 o'clock, and you can see all the plates move at once. So we can just go up and do the tens, and then on every hour, the hour changes. Now this looks like a rolling wheel or drum type of a mechanism where you just have a drum with a bunch of numbers, but clearly it is too small for that. For let's just say 12 of these, the wheel would have to be quite massive to show all the 12 numbers, and this is a much thinner unit. So something else must be happening inside the clock to provide so many numbers for such a small package. And let's go ahead and open this up and see what's inside. Now, I did notice, you know, you have the 4 screws down here, but looking at it really closely, I don't really see many seams. And so examining it, it does look like on the plastic cover here, there's a little tab up on top here, and there's a couple of little tabs down here. So clearly it looks like the clock mechanism probably comes out via the front. And so just very carefully, I'm just gonna kind of get my nail in here and try to expose this and try to lift up this tab very carefully until this tab comes out, just like that. And then this plastic should just slip off like this. Now the plastic has a little bevel here that kind of helps tell you the direction of putting it back in. But I also noticed that these two little tabs here are a little bit different in distance from the edge. So if you flip it over and try to put it in the wrong way, the tabs just don't fit. They only go in a certain way on the bottom. Okay, so with the plastic removed, there's a little decorative wood grained finish portion here. Let's see if I can get that out without, well, I'm not sure I can get this off directly, but let's go ahead and remove some of these screws. Now the plastic here is actually held together by these two screws, so I can't remove that without removing these two screws first. And so now the plastic, I believe, should come out by gently maneuver it here. Let's get this piece out like that. And you can see it's just the little decorative paper, just like that. And I believe I could wiggle this out. Might have to actually take these other screws off and take the whole mechanism out first. Okay, so now I think I could kind of push the whole thing out gently, like that. There we go. And now this faceplate comes off and you could expose the innards of the clock. Now you can see that this faceplate has these two little tabs right here that kind of, with those first screws, kind of hold together the mechanism and the plate as well. So you can't really replace those screws without putting in this plate at the same time. And then the wire here, I won't be able to remove the whole wire without desoldering or removing the plug-in, but we could very carefully kind of just maneuver this whole thing out. And give a little wire just like that, just so we can see what this is all about. Now I did do some research, and this is actually a Chronotel type mechanism invented and only manufactured by GE. It was actually invented by a man called Robert L. Boyles, who has a patent in 1973 on this particular kind of device. And again, as you can see, if I maneuver this, and unlike flip clocks, you could actually move the time back and forth, very much like a roller wheel type design. So that's kind of handy. With flip clocks, you pretty much have to go through the entire 12 hours or sometimes 24-hour cycle. Interesting right here, number 1 says Singapore. As you can see right there, it was manufactured in Singapore. And it just seems like a wheel type of a clock, except again, the wheel is quite a bit smaller. So let's look in back and see how they're doing this. Now, I did notice kind of peeking between here. I'm not sure if you could actually see. If you peek between those two numbers, number 6 and 7, you can actually see a subtle 3 right there behind those. So clearly these plates have 2 numbers on them. So how is it showing both numbers? So let's go ahead and turn this around, and you can see the back. Now as we rotate this clock, you could see that that 5 is flipping to 0. And so in back, it's actually flipping. So each number here, 0 through 9, is actually partly on one side or the other. So it looks like there's 5 plates total for for the single minute, and they just flip from back, and you don't really see this flip. So it is kind of like a flip clock, except the flipping's happening in back and you're not seeing it. But it's also kind of like a roller wheel kind of clock. Now the interesting thing is with the tens minutes here, that flipping mechanism does not happen. Let's see if I can show that. Now there's only basically the 6 plates with this, and the wheel is small enough that it can fit into the clock mechanism. And so the tens minutes here is actually the traditional roller wheel type of design. So it doesn't have that flip to it, just the single minutes. Now, however, the hours, being 12 hours, of course, needs some additional plates. So it has the 6 plates, and each one has does have that flipping. Let's see if we can actually get it to flip. And so you kind of see the flip for the hours. I can get it. So 6, you can see the 3 right there. Yeah, so the 3 flips to a 9 on the other side. So on every, cycle, the hourly cycle, it will flip. And the hours actually has 2 numbers on both plates. So that's the GE Chronotel type of mechanism. It's not only a roller wheel type, but also has a flipping component, both for the single minutes and the hours. Again, the tens is that traditional roller wheel. So a very interesting design, only manufactured by GE. Now, General Electric did make a lot of these types of versions of clocks, and they were in direct competition with the traditional flip clock. They sort of did advertise these as an alternative to traditional flip clocks, saying that they operated more quietly. So if you've ever owned a flip clock, you might hear the flipping every minute of the clock as it moves forward. It's not very loud, but let's say it could annoy some people. They actually advertise this as a quieter version. Also, because of the roller wheel type design, you could not only move it forward, but also backwards to change the time, which is can be handy when you need to change that time, that clock, every couple of times a year. So those are really the only 2 advantages of this type of design. I find it very interesting. Also, you didn't see that line in the middle of the number, which is quite nice as well. So I do kind of like this design. Actually, I find it much more elegant in some ways than the traditional flip clock. And it's just too bad that flip clocks kind of went away. I always enjoyed them, and here it is moving again. But I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please hit that like button at the bottom of the screen. I will see you later. Bye-bye.